Hey guys, what is up? This is Stephanie, aka the Limitless Babe, reminding you today and every day that you are so limitless. So, today I wanted to share with you guys a super fun project that I had the immense honor of being part of. I was interviewed by First Class Second Place podcast host Jason Enrique. So, if you don't already follow him, check him out. I'm going to post some information about him here, right? You can find him on Instagram at first.class.second.place. And yeah, you can find him also on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Buzzsprout. So check it out, First Class Second Place podcast. This was my first time being interviewed, and it was such a fun but also a bit intimidating process. And I'm really excited to bring it to you guys for a few reasons. And one of them is because I really like the thought of you guys getting to know me on a deeper level and knowing who I am. Who are you subscribing to? Who are you listening to and taking this advice from? And who's asking you these questions? Who's this nosy person asking you all these questions about your life? Well, now you're gonna know, right? And then the other reason that I'm super excited about this is, as I've mentioned in my welcome video. Sorry, you guys have all this extra noise. We have the pitter patter of dog feet, and we have Coco Melon in the background, but that's life, right? So the other part that I wanted to incorporate into this channel is eventually I would love to interview people and bring you some amazing stories of different people's lives, right? So I've never interviewed anybody, and I'm excited to learn the process and learn how to perform an effective interview. And I think Jason Enrique just has that gift. He has that quality. So I was very excited to learn from him, and yeah, we'll see what the future holds. So in the meantime, while I'm getting the balls, while I'm getting the guts to finally start my interview series, I hope that you guys enjoy this experience. And yeah, make sure you check him out. Make sure you follow him. And in the meantime, stay limitless. Bye, guys. Mwah.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the First Class Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and with me today I have a very special guest. I have Stephanie, the Limitless Babe. How you doing, Stephanie?
Oh, I'm great today. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for asking. All right, so let's start the interview like I do with all of my guests. Why don't you tell me the beginning of your Jersey story?
Well, Jersey born and bred, Summit, New Jersey. So Overlook Hospital, if you were there, hey. Um, my family is from Hillside, New Jersey. Well, they lived in Hillside when I was born, and they're still there. I'm currently living in Moonachie, very close to MetLife Stadium. I say that because no one has ever heard of Moonachie, New Jersey. Um, and yeah, I've bounced around from different cities, but I've always stayed in Jersey.
Nice. Now, what was your experience like growing up? Like, did you have any aspirations of any type of career specialty or specifically, or like, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Oh, I would have bet money that I was going to own my own dance studio.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Big dancer.
Oh yeah. Oh
Nice.
yeah.
Now, you're also Cuban, correct?
Correct.
All right. No, so one interesting thing is that I spent a number of years in Florida, Miami to be specific, and obviously that's a very big community down there with Cubans, and of course there's a lot more spread out in this country. And one thing that I've always thought about was I was able to, when I was living down there, I was able to see them, and the ones also up here in Jersey, and I noticed that even though there's a lot of similarities, there are some small differences like politics and ideology. So I guess I want to know, with your own personal experience, what was it like for a Cuban like you growing up in the Northeast when it's more saturated with other ethnicities like Puerto Rican and Dominican and even a good number of Italians here in Jersey?
I mean, honestly, I guess because in my house, everything was just like the Cuban culture. I
Hmm.
didn't really even notice. So like, I couldn't even really tell you because I just know how I was raised. And like, I didn't, I'm having a hard time answering this question. I don't know why.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I mean, I just wanted to know for your own personal experience. Like I know that in one of your videos you mentioned that even though you are Hispanic, they kind of took you as white sometimes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for pulling me in. I appreciate you.
This is what we're here for.
Thank you. Because, when you're on the spot, you're just like, I don't know what to say. Yes. So actually, you are very correct with that. Yeah. A lot of times meeting people, probably because of where, like in my school, I grew up as being one of very few in the Latino community. It was mostly, predominantly white. I went to private school. So yeah, a lot of people always grew up thinking I was white. Something that's interesting that I find is that a lot of other Latinos that I have met as I've grown up, so not so much when I was a child, but now as I've grown up, they even look at me and say, "Oh, you talk white, you look white, you're not white." And I get very confused by that question. I got to tell you.
Now, here's the interesting thing, like to kind of piggyback off of that. So, one of my best friends in the whole world, he's Costa Rican. He was born in Costa Rica and he came to this country when he was like 3 or 4 years old. But he grew up in Midland Park, which, as you know, is very, very predominantly conservative and white and so on and so forth. So, because of his complexion, because he looks Caucasian, and because of the area that he grew up in, there's a lot of things that he was able to pick up on, as well as, keeping intact with his, his ethnicity and everything. But he did pick up a lot of the similarities of people in that community. And more often than not, he's always confused as being Italian or, white in general. But until he speaks actual Spanish, then that's when you realize that he is Hispanic. So, and, to piggyback even more off of that, I remember my father, God rest his soul, he used to play soccer, and one of his soccer buddies was black. He looked black. And at the time, before I was even, aware of any of this stuff, I thought it was just, oh, it's just a bunch of Costa Rican guys and a black guy. But it turns out that he was also Costa Rican as well, and he had the thicker accent more than anybody. So that's when I learned at a very early age that we are mixed in so many ways.
Oh, so many ways, so many ways. It's crazy. And you're so right about that, because like we exist in all colors, all shades. It's just crazy. And something else that I did want to mention that I get very frustrated with when you said like about, growing up and how did it feel? I get very confused when people tell me that I talk white,
Mm,
because what I don't, and I get more upset. I can almost forgive it when it comes from another ethnicity. But when it comes from another fellow Latino ethnicity, I get confused because it's like, wait a second. I speak in a way that sounds educated.
right.
And why should I not? Like, I just feel like, are you saying that as a Latino, I can't be educated? As a Latino, I can't sound intelligent? I struggle with that because I don't see how one has to do with the other.
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. All right. Switching gears here a little bit. What got you into wanting to starting your own YouTube channel where people can find you right now at the Limitless Babe on YouTube?
I will swear to you, it was divine intervention. I never in my life wanted to be on YouTube. I never in my life ever even wanted to post a video of me. Like, I was always very self-conscious. I was always I don't I don't know. I just never had the need for that attention, and I still don't want the attention. But what I will say is that after I had my daughter in 2020, obviously we were in this crazy pandemic. Finances were tough. Everything is, flipped upside down. I have a lot of other stories that I could tell you, but that would take days.
Right.
Um, but for some reason at that time, I was struggling, and I'm sorry if this offends your delicate man ears, but I was struggling with breastfeeding. So I needed YouTube. And so I started looking up like how to increase my supply, how to do this, how to do that. And then I realized, well, hey, if I can find information about this, I'm also struggling with this and this and this, and let me look things up. And I just fell in love with it. And I started feeling a pull, like I have something to say. Because one thing that frustrated me when I would look for mommy help, which I have to admit, as much as this is one thing that inspired me, I still haven't gotten around to fully talking about this yet on my channel. Um, there's very little representation that I have found of the mommy journey as a single mother, which is very different. So I would get really frustrated when I would hear these women talk about, oh, so, like my husband helps me doing this and that or this. And okay, I mean, that's wonderful and that's beautiful. But what about the women that don't have that? Can you guide us? Can you help us?
Right. Exactly.
So I feel like I was feeling a pull with that. And I would start seeing really weird signs. So this is where you're going to look at me and say, okay, like Steph, you're hippy dippy. You're a little too weird for me. I think we need
No,
to cut
no,
this
no.
interview.
I do not think that, but please proceed.
Thank you. I am a heavy believer in signs, in destiny, in the universe guiding us, God guiding us, source, whoever you call it, whatever your higher power is. I am convinced that we are being guided and pushed. And like I said, it started coming in as a thought and like a little spirit that started growing in me that I started talking to my closest circle about. Like, I don't know why I'm feeling inspired to do this, but I don't know. And then one day, I'm walking, the baby strapped to my chest, 2 dogs in hand, and the mailman, which by the way, this was a new mailman. I've never seen this man before in my life since that day, and I never saw him after. So that's also really weird. He looks at me and he says, "Wow, you should make a video." That was it. No follow-up. No. I said, "Okay." And it had already been on my mind. And then I took a very powerful trip to Sedona last year. And
Okay.
that was like the ceiling of like everything for me. I went there feeling like, okay, I need to heal a lot of things that I've struggled through, and I need to get my voice back. I need to just find what my purpose is. And I ended up finding this random group, right? Like I found this on I can't even tell you how I got guided, because I started looking up yoga retreats, and then that led me to this website and this website and this website. And then I found a retreat that had already been closed. They had closed in April, and I found them in like July.
Right.
But it was still showing open. It was still showing available spots. So I called the lady and I said, "Hey, listen, like, how do I get in?" And she's like, "Oh, it's closed, but let me see if I can somehow squeeze you in." She calls me back like 3 hours later and says, "If you're interested, I was able to make it happen. I'll just triple up with someone else in a room and we'll make it work." And I just felt like even that was like, okay, I'm being pulled here. So anyway, I don't tell short stories. I apologize.
No, that's fine. We got time here, and
Okay, good. So I was the only one flying in from New Jersey. So I went in from Newark. Everybody else was from JFK. And I'm sitting there because my flight landed a little bit early, maybe like an hour earlier than theirs. And I'm sitting in the airport. And I don't know about you, but like I have never seen a moth in the airport ever.
No, I can't say that I have,
Okay. So I'm sitting there.
but I have a feeling where this is going. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting there charging my phone, journaling, right? Because I'm on this spiritual journey, and this is like
Right.
my eat, pray, love moment.
Right. Right.
And and this damn moth keeps flying in my face, and I'm swatting it away, and I'm just like, "Why are you here?" And then like after that, like he kind of like backed off, but stayed like circling around me. So something told me, look up what a moth means. And when I looked it up, I was just blown away. Like it was about like transformation. Everything you need is already within you. You're on the right path. And it was just so many things. Like I can't even give you all the meanings that it had, but it was so many things related to what I was feeling and why I was there. And I just was blown away. For the rest of that trip, every day a moth visited me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, it was all of that. And during that trip, there were so many amazing moments. We had a shaman leading us around and kind of like taking us to the different, important points that you need to see and teaching us what it meant. And she took a very strong liking to me. And I was telling her about my story and why I really wanted to work on opening up my throat chakra, because I felt stuck. I felt blocked. I felt like I had lost my voice during, recent circumstances. And she made sure that we did everything possible to release that and to heal that. And I am so grateful to her. She was incredible. Crystal, if you're out there, hey. Uh, so, I don't know, ever since then, I came home, and a week after I came home, I was driving to get my hair cut. And it hit me like a thunderbolt, because up until this point, I'm thinking I want to start a channel, but I don't know what to even talk about. What am I going to do? What's my name going to be? And it hit me. The name hit me. The concept hit me. Everything just like washed over my body. And from that day forward, I started reading books on how to start. It was supposed to be a podcast, how to start a podcast, how to do this, how to do that. Because even then I wanted to heal my voice and I wanted to let my voice shine out, but I was still intimidated by the video aspect. And
Yeah.
I don't even know how. Somehow a friend, I talked to her about it and she was like, "No, but I think that people need to see you. I think they're going to relate to you when they see you. And, you're so expressive. And, like she just said, like, you're so engaging in person. I want people to see you and know who you are." And so, from there, the rest is history. And I've just taken that leap, and we're hoping and praying that this goes somewhere. And I just have a good feeling.
Wow, that's great. I love that. And you're absolutely right about the video aspect. That's something that I got to wrap my head around. I haven't got to that yet, but I'm going to get there.
It's so intimidating and so nerve wracking, but that's the
Yeah,
funny thing.
because I never saw myself that way either. I mean, I always wanted my voice to be the character, not my face. So I mean, I always joke around that I got a face for radio, so I just want to let my voice do the work.
That's not true, but okay. I understand. I can empathize and I can totally
Right,
understand and relate to you. And I
right.
think one of the more liberating things for me was that first video that I made that I posted.
Hmm.
I only uploaded it to show a mentor of mine to see what they thought. Like, okay, hey, what do you think? Like, I haven't edited this yet, but this is what I have. And he was like, listen, like, I don't even think you need to edit it. Just do it. And so that was like a bravery moment of, okay, like, I'm going to just drop all inhibition. I'm not going to care how I look, what I say, how many so's or ums are in between every other word. We're just going to post it and see what happens. And I have to say, like, the feedback from my friends and family has been great.
And usually that works out best in some ways. Like, I'll give you an example. So I don't know what kind of music fan that you are, but I'm a huge hip hop head. That's probably like the number one genre that I listen to, not just the popular stuff, but also the underground stuff. And one of the things I know about that genre specifically is that it's not always polished. It's not always, perfectly aligned. There's always some kind of mixture or, whatever kind of vibe that doesn't always have to align, but that's what it is. It's the rawness and the grittiness of it that makes it what it is. So in that same aspect, I'm thinking about you in your videos that I actually did see because I watch all of your videos, honestly. And yeah, especially in the beginning ones, in the earlier ones, there was one that I guess, people think that maybe you could edit or whatever, but I personally thought it was fine just the way it was because anytime you want to be in the public eye, it's never a bad thing to be humanized. I mean, you're just showing this is you 100% raw, uncut. It doesn't have to always be polished. It doesn't always have to be clean cut. Show authenticity. That's the main important part about it.
I love that you chose that word because that's exactly what I was thinking. That's pretty much been the embodiment of my last few years of life. And it's so funny because even when I didn't get to have a full blown baby shower, but the ladies at my gym, I used to teach Zumba. The ladies at my gym threw me one and they went down the line one at a time saying something about me. And like the big message was like authenticity, like you live to be authentic and you want to show yourself and you want to be just who you are. And that's beautiful. And it's so funny because, like I said, I was trying to heal this part of myself that somehow lost that. And let's be real, like, oh, I mean, on top of like putting any interpersonal relationship stuff aside,
Hmm.
becoming a mother will fuck you up. And I'm sorry that I just cursed, but
I
like
don't give a fuck. Yeah, there's no censorship here, so please curse all the
it
fuck you
will,
want.
yeah, it will fuck you up in the worst ways, in the best ways. Like it just pretty much takes what you know life to be and like swirls it around and throws it everywhere across the room. And you just got to pick up the pieces and figure out how it goes together today because it's not the same as it was yesterday. So like figuring out who I was now is definitely part of my journey.
Nice. Now, before you created your own platform, like I just want to know how active were you on social media? Like, were you extremely active, like to the point where you posted consistently, or were you more of like a private person that would just had it for like the occasional birthday or vacation or such?
So I always joke around like I'm such an old lady. I did not join the social media world until 2000 maybe 11, I think. And even then,
Mhm.
like I was so anti social media. Like I never had a MySpace. I never had,
Oh
any of
wow,
those.
that's a throwback.
Yeah. IG, I didn't even join that. That was Facebook, by the way, 2011. That was Facebook, and that was only
Right.
for work, never posted.
Hmm.
Um, maybe like around 2014, I think is when I finally joined Instagram. And that was only for my lash business because the lady that I was working for said, listen, this is how you're going to build your clientele. And she was right. But then, like I said, so I would post just for the lash stuff. And then, like on Facebook, like you said, birthdays and little things like that. If I had a trip, I would post pictures of a trip, but not a lot. Like I was very not into social media. And then I had my daughter and like I said, it was like blackout. I'm sure people thought I died because like my Instagram went dark. Now Facebook on the other hand, no, cuz now like I'm sharing. See, my Facebook is reserved for people that I know. If I don't know you, I'm not accepting you.
Right, as it
My
should be.
Exactly. My Instagram is for work. I don't have a personal Instagram that I use. It's only
Hmm.
one for the lash business, one for the page, and one for another side hustle that I have. But like I went dark on Instagram. So yeah, like for me right now, having to put stuff out consistently is very challenging. And it's also very difficult to know, because I am trying to like show the mommy side of it, how much, especially of my daughter, do I show with people that I don't know?
Right. And that's important. I mean, as much as you want to be in the public eye out there, there's some things that you just have to choose to keep close to the chest. You don't want the whole world to know your life. And besides, you know how nosy this world can be in any way. I mean, just only let in the ones that you feel like are worthy of it.
Exactly. That's a gift. It's not a right.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that too. Now, so one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on my show is because I went on your YouTube channel and I subscribed, and I suggest all of my listeners to subscribe to her channel as well at the Limitless Babe on YouTube. And there were two videos that captured my attention for the most part. One was a movie review of a movie that we both loved, and we'll get into that later. But the other one was a longer video in which you decided to be brave and talk about domestic violence. Now, I don't want to give away too much of that about that video because I want my listeners and your future subscribers to watch it in its entirety. And I don't want to speak for you because it's your story. But I do want to ask, what made you ultimately decide to be brave and just put something out there that I know is really hard to talk about, especially in front of a million strangers? And has it been a relief for you that you've been able to get out there and talk about it?
Oh wow. Yeah. That was a huge relief. So like I said before about why I started my channel, part of it was to open up my voice again, to feel powerful again in myself and who I am. And unfortunately, who I am is someone who went through domestic violence in multiple different ways, ways that some people understand as domestic violence, and some ways that people don't understand. So there was that aspect of it. There was also the aspect that I'm in a lot of support groups for people that have been through certain types, specific types of domestic violence. And I had been noticing that, okay, like October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So there's also the responsibility as someone who has gone through it and has come out on the other side and is okay. Like maybe my life isn't perfect or exactly as I want it to be just yet, but like I'm good. And I needed to show other people that you can be good. Like you're gonna be okay. It's just you gotta acknowledge that this is what's happening and get out. And then the last part of that was, again, a lot of people are in situationships, relationships. They're confused. They don't understand why they feel how they feel, but they know it doesn't feel right. And I wanted to talk to that girl and say, hey, if this is you, this is what's going on. It's not okay. You deserve better. And you're not alone.
Right. No, no. And, I really appreciated that episode because I'm a guy, I personally haven't experienced any domestic violence, even though I know that in this day and age, it's not, only available to one specific sex. I mean, it could work on both spectrums, and there's different ways of abuse, especially there's mental abuse, emotional abuse, and so on and so forth. But what I appreciate about that video also is not only were you brave and you were able to put your voice out there, but again, going back to authenticity, I could tell in that video, and everybody else will, that it was very hard for you to talk about. And I apologize if I brought up this subject again, if it's difficult, but I commend you for doing that because we live in an era now where people can talk about that things within their own rights. And I'm always going to be supportive of those that are able to put their story out there like that and be brave about it and talk about it, because I feel like as uncomfortable and as hard as it is, we have to talk about these things, because if we don't talk about a problem that's going on, then how are we going to fix it?
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And I also want to stop and say thank you, by the way, because it does feel extra empowering to be acknowledged and to be seen for that. So I appreciate you. Um, oh God, I just had a point that it came and I lost it. Oh my God. Damn it. I hate. Okay. Again, another side effect of mommyhood is that like your brain is shot. Like,
Mm.
but repeat that last part that you just said because it was right there. Oh man.
Well, I just said that, I just appreciate the fact that you were able to, put it out there, because if we don't talk about this, how are we going to fix the problem if we don't
Yeah.
notice that there is a problem?
Thank you. You just brought it back. See, sometimes I just need a little reminder. Okay. So one thing that I find interesting, and this is not, a shame on or a poo-poo to my friends and family, but it's interesting. And I've talked about this with my best friend, is that if I post pictures of my daughter, if I post memes, if I post anything happy, joyful, all the likes and comments in the world, which we're not looking for that, but this was just an interesting human experiment.
Hmm.
Anytime I post anything with the word domestic violence or anything that hints to it, crickets.
Hmm.
And it's so interesting that what I understand from that, and maybe my perception of it is wrong, is that even the word domestic violence just makes people so uncomfortable, they can't even hear it or see it.
Well, it's also a triggering word. I mean, when people hear that, I learned this in psychology class that sometimes there are words that create filters. So whenever somebody says a word and it filters out in a specific person's brain, then they basically mute out everything and they're just focused on that one word.
Yeah, definitely. So I thought that was insane to me. And I think that part of the problem here is that exactly, we live in a society that is so uncomfortable with this. We don't talk about it. And you know what? When you talk about things, you take away their power.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I'm actually very confident that we're not there yet, but it's going to come a time where we're going to get there because I remember there was a time where people were afraid to talk about homosexuality to the point now where it's unavoidable and it's not even looked at as a problem anymore. I mean, because they were just persistent in getting this message out, and unfortunately, as horrific as this message is, I mean, it has to be brought out there. And I want to actually bring up a good point as well. So I had a guest on my show a while back. He's a YouTube channel guy just like you, and he does football. We're both fans of the New York Jets, and that's how I got to know him and his channel because I'm a fan of the team. But another thing besides about football is he also likes to talk about mental health. He's a huge advocate of mental health, and in my interview, which you guys can check out, called "Life Is a Game of Inches" on the First Class Second Place podcast, he was talking about how he was gaining sponsors because of his football content. But then he also wanted to talk about mental health and the advocacy and everything for it. But then as soon as we started talking about suicide prevention, they started losing sponsors. And what I appreciate about him is that, so wait, you're going to tell me that you're okay with me yelling about a fucking football game and how angry it makes me that the team lost. But when I'm trying to talk about something that's more prevalent and more important, you're going to lose, you're going to take your sponsorship away. So he said, fuck it. I'm just going to double down on it and keep on talking about it. And he's been doing some wonderful things with that, with that subject. And he's still doing the football thing, but like I said, he's a very big mental health advocate, and he's been doing a lot of prevalent things for it. And you just got to admire that bravery. And and he's just a regular guy. I mean, he's just like me. If we get sponsors, great, but we can care less about sponsors. At the end of the day, I think when you, me, anybody else that's doing this, we didn't decide to get in this for monetary reasons or to get sponsors or get our name out there. We felt like we needed to say something, and we're getting it out there. And this community that we're in, this podcast community or YouTube community that we're in, we're just here to help each other out. And eventually I feel like we're going to get there. It's not there yet, but we'll get there.
Oh, absolutely. And in regards to that gentleman, it's so interesting because I feel like life will give you challenges and tests to see, like, you seem to be okay and ready to move on with your purpose. But I'm going to throw this little test or dangle this money at you and see, like, okay, if I distract you, will you go left? And he didn't go left. And I
Hmm.
love that. I love that persistence and, like, back to that word, authenticity, and that strength of character that it takes to say, no, I feel passionate about this. I feel like this is important, and screw the money.
Exactly. Now the money's nice. I'm not gonna lie, but at the end of the day, that's not why I got into this in the first place. I mentioned before, and I think I may have even told you before that the reason I got into this is because I feel like I needed to make my mark in some way, shape, or form on this earth instead of being just a little cog in the machine. And I just needed to find out what that was, and I feel like this is it so far.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that as people hear, your interviews and the messages and the questions that you ask, it's not, the typical questions. These are thought-provoking questions, which I love. And,
Hmm.
we need that. We need that. We need someone to say, "Hey, wait, can I ask you about this?"
Right.
Yeah.
And are you willing to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, challenge the listener, and see if they have what it takes. Now, I'm not much of a debate guy because I'm just I kind of got a one track mind where I'm not even going to explain why I agree with this or that. It's just so ingrained in my mind as to what it is. But I'm also in some weird way, an open mind, and I'm willing to listen and hear people out, and I just hope that people will do the same as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. I think that one thing that our society needs to remember is the word tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what you just explained. I'm very similar with a lot of my beliefs, right? Like they're in me, they're not going anywhere, but I can still hear you and have a conversation with you about it and be respectful.
Right. That's actually a nice segue because the next question that I want to ask you is, now I don't really like to talk about politics or religion much on the show because that's not what it's about. And honestly, I'm not very intelligent in those subjects anyway. But I do understand that your faith is very important to you. So I guess what I want to ask you is, were you always into religion, or was it something that became more important to you as you got older and wiser and helped you out during your time of crisis?
That's a great question. I grew up in a family that is very Catholic.
Hmm.
And so,
As
yeah,
most Hispanic families.
exactly. Yeah. And so already had the foundation, and I'm actually now, as an adult, as a woman that has chosen to continue my path with God, I'm very grateful for that foundation, right? Because I actually also pre-COVID used to teach CCD, and I see how much harder it is for these kids to get into it when they're older or when they haven't like grown up in that environment. And I totally understand. So yeah, I had the foundation. I went to church. I did all the things, all the holidays, all, prayers to God. And when I need you, I know you're there. I know that I'm protected, and I know that you're always here. But, it's not until, and this is like with anything, it's not until you hit adversity or problems that you really like gravitate or find your focus in that. So I find that for me, it was when I was going through really difficult times that my bond and my strength in God just got that much deeper. And, whereas before it's, well, I was raised to do this and this is what I'm quote unquote supposed to do. Now this is something that I get to do. I get to give my time to you once a week because I'm so grateful for everything that you give me every day.
Mm. One thing I also appreciate in your videos is that when it comes to this subject, you're actually, able to explain yourself and also be respectful to others because everybody knows that they believe in something else and you want to be respectful towards everybody else that's listening. And that's important because at the end of the day, these are things that you have to say and also adhere to in order to get your message out.
Yeah, thank you so much for noticing that. And again, I think that all just goes back to the word tolerance and just respect, where like if I can be so bold, even not to say that this is a general rule across the board, but what I've noticed in a lot of people that I know is that we, as a majority, have similar beliefs. We just call them different things.
That is true. You know what? I never really thought of it that way, but that's an excellent point.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you call it this and I call it that, like, cool. Just like, I hope that my word doesn't offend you, replace it with yours, and let's just move on.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you ever find it yourself, let me rephrase. Do you ever find yourself like maybe not, I would say when it comes to the subject of religion and because of your faith, does it ever have any people, get turned off by it because of it, or have pretty much everybody been receptive to it nicely?
I mean, I'm not exactly that big of a deal yet to know, but I'll let you know when I find out. So, right now, I feel like as I'm still growing in this YouTube world and all of that, I feel like if you're finding me, if you're following me, if you're subscribing to me, you're kind of already on board with a lot of the things that I have to say. But I'm sure that there's going to be a day when someone finds my channel and likes most of the things that I have to say, but gets offended. I'm sure I'm going to get that comment. I'm sure I'm going to get that message. And it's just like you said about having that strength of character, like that other gentleman, and also being respectful and tolerant and just saying, listen, like, I mean no harm. And if you really pay attention to my channel, I think you get that sense that like I'm genuinely always coming from a place of love and acceptance and just wanting to help.
That's awesome. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit here, and also take this to a positive place. Even though I appreciate this conversation that we've been having thus far, I love it. So you happen to discover me on social media, I believe, and there was an interview that I did with my boy Joe, and his other boy Zane. Shout out to those guys as well. Um, in a world of social media, since everybody seems to know each other, and I'm starting to realize more and more now that Jersey's just a really small fucking state. How did you come across my episode and those guys? And because the only reason I'm wondering is because I was wondering how you found out because that was the catalyst of how we got together and are able to do this episode now.
So Which, because I've watched a few of yours. Was that the one? Those are your friends, or was that the one about talking about like mental health and psychology? You know, because I've watched a few of them. Was that those guys, or were
Right. It
those your?
was it was the guys that did therapy without a degree.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that was the first one that I listened to and that I watched. But I actually found you through another person that you interviewed, Marissa Tong. Her and I used to dance
Oh, okay.
together. Yeah, I love her. She is just an amazing woman, entrepreneur, badass. She's just good vibes all around. And so I saw that she had tagged you in
Mm,
one of her stories, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." Like I said, I'm starting out, and I would love to learn more and hear more people that are doing this as well. So then I checked your page out, and then I saw the psychology without a degree, and I absolutely loved
therapy
that
without a degree.
therapy. I'm sorry, therapy without a degree. I really loved that conversation because I could relate with it on so many levels. When you guys talked about synchronicities, I was like, yes, yes. How many times has that happened? And yes.
And you know that goes back to what we were talking about with this podcast community that we're in, because that I had never met those guys before. Specifically Joe, I never met him before, and yet on social media we have so many mutual friends. We have like 20 or 30 mutual friends, but we never crossed paths for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but that was the first time that we ever met. And through that one meeting and through that one recording, we were able to, you know, synchronize and, you know, have a great conversation. And, you know, we're looking to do more to help each other out in both of our endeavors. And
Yeah,
this
I
is what
really, I think you
and
guys
this is what I love about this community, that we're just constantly finding people that are doing this, and we want to help each other out and work with each other. Now, I'll be honest, not everybody's content is great. I've listened to a lot of stuff, and let's just say that if I have you on my show and I'm willing to work with you, that goes to show how much I believe in your talent.
Oh, hearing you say that makes me feel extra honored to be here right now. So thank you for that. But going back really quick, yeah, I think you guys should definitely do more stuff because it was very powerful. Like I would definitely listen.
And that goes back to the message that we're trying to bring out to people. Because I noticed that even though I had never met those guys before, we shared a lot of the same ideologies and same realities, and been through some of the same harsh stuff that, you know, people go through.
Hmm. And it was also what caught my attention, like we've been kind of talking about, is the fact of talking about an uncomfortable topic.
Hmm.
Like mental health is uncomfortable for a lot of people, but let's be real. I don't think there's one person that couldn't benefit from talking to a therapist. And I think there's such a stigma that we grew up. I mean, I think you're around my age. Like we grew up with our parents thinking there was such a, I don't need a therapist. Like, oh, I don't need to talk to it because they were called shrinks. Remember?
And you know, this is also something that's really deep in the Hispanic community. I mean, they look at therapy as a weakness.
Oh yeah,
Come on,
definitely.
let's just
You
talk
need
about
help.
it. Let's just keep it real. Let's talk about it. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And think about it. How many times growing up were you told like, oh, but like we don't talk about this outside of the house. Like
All the
nobody
time,
has
all
more
the
business.
time, all the time.
Mhm.
It was just dinner table conversation. That's what they called it.
Yep. Which what was interesting to me, and I don't know, and God, I hope my mom's not listening. Mommy, I love you.
I love you
But
too, ma.
however, I'm sure your mother might do the same thing. Don't talk about anything that happens in this house. And then
Hmm.
goes to, yeah, so you know, so and so. Oh my God, do you know what just happened? Like Stephanie did this and this and this and this. And then by the time I turn around, everybody knows my business.
Yeah. What are you doing, you little chismosa? That kind of shit. The look on your face, you just got scared about the thought of your mother. Even
I know. I'm like, oh my God. I
we
just love you,
we
Mama. Thanks for the
us
support.
us Hispanics are always traumatized by that.
Oh man. It's
Yeah.
so funny. So
Yeah,
true.
no, but either way, you know, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you, you know, reaching out, and you should feel honored, because I even feel honored having you on my show as well.
Oh, thank you so much. That means
Yeah,
a lot.
you're welcome. So let's switch gears here a little bit. So the other video that caught my attention when I was on your YouTube channel was a movie review, a little movie by the name of Encanto. Now, before we get to talk about a little bit about that video, I just want to say that one of the things that I like to watch on YouTube a lot is movie reviews, because that's something that I'm actually working on doing. I'm a huge movie buff. I'm kind of working with and toying with the idea of starting my own YouTube channel dedicated to only movie reviews, because I watch a lot of classics and I also watch a lot of new stuff that comes out. I just feel like I got to get like you. I got to get comfortable with being in front of the camera and making sure that, you know, I know the ins and outs and all the, you know, the technical stuff that goes in it. You know, I think I'm a little bit too much of a perfectionist to the point where I loved your video because it was authentic. and it was raw, it was unedited, and you could clearly see that you were in the moment and so on and so forth. Me, I'm more of the mindset that I have to be professional. Like, I have to feel like I'm doing it live on air. That's just me. That's just how I'm wired, but I'll get there eventually. But going back to the movie, yeah, no, I thought that you actually did a phenomenal job with a movie review, and I'm looking forward to seeing more movie reviews from you if possible. Like, what type of genres do you like, first of all?
It's so funny. Like, I pre-baby loved a good horror movie. Like, which
Mm,
it's so funny because I say that word and I realize that nowadays that's such an oxymoron because there really are so few good horror movies. Like, they're usually so bad,
hmm
but you can't shut them off.
I,
But
I I tell people all the time that it's my least favorite genre, not because it doesn't scare me, but I feel like a lot of them are very cheaply made.
agreed. I love that adrenaline rush, which is so funny because like I hate watching them alone. So like I would literally like cuddle up with the dog or whoever, anybody that's around, like watch it with me. But I love it. I would watch it like this, and you can't. Those who are listening, I'm literally like covering my eyes with my finger open to see through it. But like I would watch them like that, and then not sleep for 3 days. But I love it.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, the one thing though, I will say, I enjoy a lot of genres. Like I can watch a comedy, I can watch a drama, I can watch an action, I can watch all those things. But again, kind of going back to one of your other previous questions about like my faith, and I don't want to keep like harping on that, but like
Yeah,
there
no, go.
was a
It's
period
okay.
of. So here's one thing that I find interesting. I love all of those, but I have to be in the mindset now to watch it. Like I can't just put on an action or a drama and be
Hmm.
good to watch that. Like I have to make sure that I'm in a good mindset, that I'm in a good mind space, going also back to mental health and wellness. Because I do realize like I love there's a pastor on YouTube, on TV, on everywhere, Joel Osteen. If you love him, great. If you don't, sorry. But
My mother watches them all the time, so I know who he is.
okay, so he talks a lot about like what you put into your spirit. And and I do have to say that I noticed like there was a time where I was watching only like The Walking Dead and Ray Donovan, and I was so consumed with what I was watching that it was kind of taking over my personality and my spirit a little bit. And so I realized that every now and then I have to lighten it up because like you can get consumed with the negativity or, all of that that's happening. So while I
Hmm.
enjoy multiple genres, I have to kind of monitor and say, okay, you know what, today, girl, we need a comedy because we need to laugh.
Yeah, and like I'm a cinephile at heart. At the end of the day, I mean, I love documentaries. I love classic movies that are TCM. And sometimes I enjoy a silly Adam Sandler movie that is just gross and disgusting, but it's just mindless fun. It's just one of those movies where I just turn off my brain after a hard day of work and just focus on that. Sometimes I need a good laugh with dick and fart jokes every now and then.
Exactly. Everything has its time and its season, and sometimes you need it. But I
Right.
definitely think that you should do a review channel. I think that would be phenomenal. And I mean, imagine, look at the success that like Siskel and Ebert had. Like people love that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to that extent, I think it's something that you should also incorporate into your YouTube channel as well, because I enjoyed the Encanto movie review that you did. So who knows? Maybe that's something that you have a knack for. I don't think that you should completely discount it out.
Well, thank you. I mean, and it's funny because I never ever thought I would do that, but that movie, like, let's talk about it. The fact that
Yep.
it's one of those I can keep watching it over and over and over again, which by the way, now that I have you on and well, that you have me on and we're talking about this, can I please formally apologize that was only after my second time of watching it and I was distracted and the entire review I called the poor girl Maribel and her name is Mirabel, guys. I get it, okay? But again, that goes back to authenticity and human error and the fact that like we all make mistakes. We're
Yeah.
not perfect. And while I felt shame immediately when I realized what I had done, I was like, oh well.
Yeah.
If they like it, they like it.
I'll tell you one thing. So my last name is also the same last name as theirs, and part of the reason why I have my name on the podcast is Jason Enrique. That's my first and middle name actually. So my last name is Madrigal, and I never used to have it on because it was so difficult for people to pronounce for some reason. But now because of that movie, I feel people have a better idea of pronouncing it.
Can we talk about the fact that I was secretly so excited when you emailed me and I saw your last name? I was like, oh my God, he's part of Familia Madrigal. What's his superpower? Podcasting, obviously.
I'll take it. I'll take it. And here's also the funny thing about that. I've actually had a couple people have told me, and I even had this on an episode of my podcast before, that there were some people that said that they knew that I was Colombian because of my last name. Because before that, people were under the impression that I was Puerto Rican or Dominican. Some people even thought I was Italian for a while. And but now, ever since that movie came out and people know about the last name, now they're starting to know that I'm Colombian. And the funny thing is that they're only half right, meaning that I am Colombian, but I'm only half Colombian. And then even further that my last name is Madrigal, but it comes from my Costa Rican side, from my dad's side. So that's when I get to explain to people that, yeah, it's my last name and I'm half Colombian, but it actually comes from my father's side, not from my mother's side, which is Colombian.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting. But I don't think that people realize that the last names cross barriers. Like, for example, well, I'm not going to say what my last name is, but I will say
Right, right.
my last name, obviously, my parents are Cuban, but like I've heard Dominicans with that last name. I've heard Brazilians with that last name, and they just maybe spell it a little different, put an accent a little here and there. Spaniards with my last name, and it's just so interesting. And even same thing like with like my daughter's father's last name. It's his last name is actually, ironically enough, my grandmother on my mother's side's last name. And also on my dad's side, we have a few people with that last name. So it's like, like these names just, we all come from Spain. Come on.
Right. Yeah. Well, do you even, and you know what's ironic about the last name Madrigal? Do you know what it means? The Webster's Dictionary. It's actually in Webster's Dictionary, believe it or not.
Tell me, please.
I have here a lyric poem suitable for being set to music, usually a short and often amatory character, especially fashionable in the 16th century and later in Italy, France, England, etc. Any part song. So the song "ENCANTO," which means sing, and then the last name kind of got to put two and two together.
That makes so much sense. That also makes sense why you're so into because didn't you say in one of your podcasts that you used to be a rapper?
Yeah. Wow. You really have been listening. Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes so much sense to me. But yeah, I did not know that. And nothing's by accident. They know what they're that movie in so many ways was so intentional. Like you saw my review. So like even the songs that they sang and the messages that they were putting out, every little detail was so intentional. And I think that's why I loved it.
Right, right. And I love the fact that they had a predominantly Colombian cast as well. And even Carlos Vivo was part of the soundtrack.
Oh my God. I love that song. I love all the songs. Yeah. I love his voice.
Yeah, it's so funny now that when people see my last name, they want to sing that song now. Don't lie. When you saw that last name, that song popped into your head as well.
Of course it did. I was so excited.
Oh wow. Well, but yeah, no. In all honesty, if there's any chance that you would do more movie reviews, I would definitely recommend you do that.
Well, actually, stay tuned. So this week's video was supposed to be put out yesterday, but I didn't come up with it until today. Sorry, guys. But it's not a movie review, but it has to do with a show review combined with my mindful provoking.
Thought-provoking.
It's a little blend.
Okay, all right. I'm looking forward to that as well. All right, so we're about to close out this episode in a little bit, but before we go, there's a question that I want to ask you that I've got to ask all of my guests, and I want to add you to that community as well. And, end this episode on a positive note and also get the brain flowing a little bit. So you, Stephanie the Limitless Babe, if they were to make a movie on your life, who would you want to portray you and why?
I was so nervous about this question. Until you explained it to me when we had our little conversation, I was like, oh God, what am I going to say? Can I give you what my first answer was going to be?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
I was like, oh my God. I thought it was more like, okay, like who kind of resembles me, who resonates with me, and like, who am I like? And basically I was like, okay, I'm a combination of like Sofia Vergara in Modern Family, the mom from American Housewife. I don't remember her name. I'm sorry. And oh my God, who was the other one? Oh, Lorelai from the Gilmore Girls. I was like, I kind of be like the three of them, like mushed together, because like I'm spicy, but I can also just be down to the like direct and down to the point, and I'm a little quirky. So like I thought that's what it was. I was wrong.
Okay.
So now to really answer your question, I would say probably Sandra Bullock could play me.
Okay. All right. That's a first on this episode on the show. So.
Well, I'm flattered. I like to be unique and authentic.
Absolutely. What's your favorite Sandra Bullock movie?
Oh my God. What is my favorite Sandra Bullock movie? I just watched The Proposal again for like the 100,000th time. I think I like that one just because she's so like, again, like quirky, funny. But I feel like we got to take it old school and go to like The Net. Like that was just so good.
Yeah.
So good.
That was also ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And me, I'm all about old school. I think for me, I'm gonna have to go Speed.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I
Also
can see
because also because I said that if anybody could play me in a movie, I would choose Keanu Reeves.
it. See, so that's perfect.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, anyway, that is going to conclude it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. I want to thank my guest, Stephanie, the Limitless Babe, for coming on there. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before we go?
Oh, my beautiful baby girl, Gracie. I love you, babe.
Nice. And where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on YouTube, obviously, at The Limitless Babe. You can find me on Instagram at The Limitless Babe, no spaces, no anything. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at thelimitlessbabe@gmail.com.
Well, actually, a question just came to mind right now. It'll be really quick. And I'm pretty
Okay.
sure anybody else would want to know this. Where did you come up with that name, the Limitless Babe?
The hell if I know. Remember Sedona? It just slammed me in the
Mm,
face a week later. I have no idea. Honestly, when I was toying around with the idea, I was thinking about like babe on a budget because I was going to talk about like how to like make single mommyhood work when money's tight. And then I
mm,
realized that's so limiting.
And then it just kind of
Yeah.
intertwined itself. Okay.
And one day it just like slapped me across the face.
Mm. For the movie guy that I am, I was thinking, is there a chance that it was after that movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper?
Well, now I have to watch it. And not, I mean, it's not, but
Oh,
I'll,
you haven't even seen it. Okay, no,
I
definitely
haven't
watch
even
that.
seen it. Maybe
Watch
I'll
it.
review it.
There
Oh,
you go. There you go. The Limitless Babe reviewing Limitless on a Throwback Thursday because it is kind of an old movie. So,
okay. I'm going to check it out.
all right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. And you could find me at Jason Enrique _ and Twitter on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to follow the First Class Second Place podcast page on Instagram. This has been the First Class Second Place podcast. We out.